The president quick to denounce the attacks in Spain as radical Islamic terrorism, saying they must be stopped. And Zuhdi Jasser from the American Islamic Forum for Democracy says others need to follow the president's lead. Dr. Jasser, good to see you as always. Unfortunately, it's always seemingly when we're talking about stuff like this. When does it stop?
Well, the whack-a-mole program will continue until we start to name it. The Prime Minister of Spain, within hours of the attack, called it jihadi terrorism. I think he's starting to take cues from President Trump, from many leaders who are actually beginning to realize that in order for the West to get its head around what we're fighting, you have to name it. And then once you name it, you can start to make the ideas, the cauldrons, the swimming pools that the radicals are swimming in, which is not only the violent behavioral problem, but the ideological underpinnings, which are political Islam, the jihadist insurgency that looks at secular democracies as their enemy, that looks to establish the caliphate globally, that wants to weaken Western secular democracies. All of these identity movements, Trish, we can't fight them unless we name them, and then Homeland Security can shift its absurd axis, which it's had during the Obama administration, of violent extremism, and shift it to violent Islamism and jihadism.
So why is this so hard? I mean, you're talking about a political movement, much like communism was a political movement, an ideology. Why does this become so challenging? Is it because of the religious component? And we don't want to look like we're discriminating, even though this has moved so far beyond religion, Dr. Jasser.
Absolutely. It's not rocket science, but there are three things. One is, once we start calling it Islamist extremism, our so-called allies are going to get really hot under the collar, be it the Saudis, the Qataris, the Jordanians. Those are Islamic republics, so they're not very keen on us realizing and acknowledging that they are cauldrons in their Sharia states of brewing these radicals. Second is they are the establishment, so this is a very anti-establishment move to call them Islamists, because the power structure in our faith community wants to continue to control. Third is domestically, the left, the Democrats love to use us Muslims as political pawns in what they're doing, and the identity politics feeds off of saying all Muslims are benign and there is no problem within the House of Islam. Wow. So they want to exploit that.
They sure do, and this has really made me mad the last couple of days, because we see them exploiting it, basically calling everyone in the administration a racist. And somehow, if you're a Republican these days, or if you dare to work in the White House for Donald Trump, you must be a racist. And they do the same thing, labeling anyone who says maybe we should be looking at people of Islamic faith to make sure they are not extreme if we're going to bring them into this country. And somehow you're labeled an Islamophobe. I mean, these are big accusations that they're making against people. And what is so saddening, Dr. Jasser, is that it's done for political reasons.
It really is, and I think it's tough love to identify that we have a problem with Islamists, but 80–90% of Muslims that are non-Islamists we want to work with and help empower the reformers of the Muslim reform movement. And I'm concerned that those who are able to use the tough language are beginning to become a minority in the White House, and will not allow us to start to shift from the bad strategy or lack of strategy in the last 8 years to a positive strategy. Are you talking about Steve Bannon's removal?
I mean, you said you're worried that people in the White House now are afraid to label this what it is. With Steve Bannon gone, you don't think you're going to see the same fight against Islamic terror?
Absolutely, because who's left? I mean, I'm worried. Is Sebastian Gorka next? I mean, who are those left in the White House that are going to say we need to work with reformers against the Islamists, against the jihadists? You know, the president's speech in Saudi Arabia was great, but we still haven't seen him forming his commission on radical Islam. A lot of the things he talked about in the election, we're not hearing about anymore. Some of it's distraction, but the others are who's left in the White House, but maybe some of the apologists for the Arab regimes. And unfortunately, those allies are not going to work with us in identifying the insurgents in Spain and Britain and in our own communities here domestically.
I mean, you know, the #1 job of the government is to keep its people safe. And we need to be doing that at the very least. Thank you so much. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, always good to see you. All right.